The moment you stop explaining yourself, something strange happens. People feel it before they understand it. The room changes, their tone shifts, their confidence weakens. You didn't raise your voice, you didn't threaten anyone, you didn't say a word, and yet they panic. Not because you're loud, but because you're quiet. Most people don't fear aggression, they fear uncertainty. Noise is predictable, silence is not. When someone talks too much, you can track them. You know what they want. You know where they stand. You know how to respond. But when someone goes quiet, the mind loses its grip. Silence removes information. And when information disappears, imagination fills the gap. That's where panic begins. Think about the last time you stopped responding in a tense situation. No explanation, no defense, no emotional reaction. What happened next? They leaned forward. They spoke faster. They started justifying themselves. Not because you attacked them, but because you didn't. Silence is not empty. It's a mirror. And most people don't like what they see when they're alone with their thoughts. Humans are wired to read signals constantly. Facial cues, tone changes, words, reactions. When you remove those signals, the brain assumes danger. Not physical danger, social danger, rejection, judgment, loss of status. That fear is older than logic. In ancient groups, being ignored meant being excluded, and exclusion meant death. That fear still lives in people today. So when you go quiet, their nervous system reacts before their mind does. They feel exposed. Silence forces people to confront themselves without distraction, and that is unbearable for most. This is why silence feels heavy in a room. It presses on people. It demands interpretation. They ask themselves questions they don't want to answer. Did I say something wrong? Am I losing control? Do they know something I don't? You didn't create those questions. Their own mind did. That's power. Not loud power. Not forceful power. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't need permission. Most people are trained to fill silence. They rush to explain. They over-clarify. They soften their stance. Because silence feels like losing ground. But it isn't. Silence is stepping off the board while the other person keeps playing. And the longer you stay quiet, the more they reveal. Watch closely. When you don't respond immediately, people start talking about themselves. They expose motives. They confess intentions. They leak insecurity, not intentionally, instinctively. Because the mind hates unresolved tension. Silence creates tension without effort. This is why calm, quiet people are often labeled intimidating. Not because they are aggressive, but because they are unreadable. And unreadable means uncontrollable. Control doesn't come from dominating others. It comes from not being dominated by the moment. Silence gives you time. Time slows the situation down. While others rush emotionally, you observe. While they react, you decide. That imbalance creates authority. In negotiations, the person who speaks less often wins. In arguments, the person who stays calm controls the frame. In relationships, the one who doesn't chase holds the power. Not because they care less, but because they are not governed by impulse. Silence is emotional discipline made visible, and discipline is rare. Most people talk because they're uncomfortable. They explain because they're afraid of being misunderstood. They argue because they need validation. Silence says none of that. Silence says, I'm not afraid of this moment. That message lands harder than any sentence. There is a reason experienced leaders pause before speaking. They let others talk first. They let the room settle. They understand that words gain weight when they are scarce. When you speak constantly, your words blend into noise. When you speak selectively, people listen. Silence trains others to value what comes next. But there's another layer. When you go quiet, people project their own fears onto you. A confident person will assume confidence. An insecure person will assume judgment. A manipulative person will assume strategy. You learn who someone is by how they react to your silence. Silence doesn't hide information, it reveals it. Pay attention to who becomes nervous, who becomes defensive, who becomes aggressive. Their reaction tells you exactly where they stand. This is why silence is dangerous. It exposes truth without confrontation, and truth threatens fragile egos. Some people will try to break your silence. They'll joke, they'll provoke. They'll demand a response, not because they want conversation, but because they want relief. Your calm unsettles them. If you rush to reassure them, you give that relief away. If you remain silent, they lose control. This is where most people fail. They mistake silence for passivity. It's not. Silence is restraint, and restraint is strength. Think about animals in the wild. The most dangerous ones don't make noise. They watch. They wait. Noise is for those trying to scare. Silence is for those who don't need to. In modern life, the same rule applies. The person who reacts least controls the interaction. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak deliberately. You choose when, you choose how much, you choose what matters. That choice creates presence. Presence changes how people treat you. They stop pushing, they start measuring, they hesitate. Not because you demanded respect, but because your behavior suggests self-respect. Silence draws boundaries without explanation, and boundaries make people nervous. Because boundaries mean access is limited. Most people are used to emotional availability. They expect immediate reactions, quick replies, instant validation. Silence breaks that expectation, and when expectations break, power shifts. This is especially true in conflict. When someone is emotional and you remain calm, their intensity collapses. They feel ridiculous, exposed. Anger needs resistance or agreement to survive. Silence gives neither. It starves emotion. That's why arguments die when one side stops feeding them. But silence is not withdrawal from reality. It's engagement on a higher level. You're no longer reacting to words. You're observing behavior. You see who needs control, who needs approval, who needs dominance. Those needs speak loudly in silence. This is why silence feels threatening to insecure people. They don't know where they stand, and not knowing feels like danger. Strong people can sit in silence comfortably. Weak ones rush to fill it. That's the difference. Silence is not about playing games. It's about emotional mastery. If you're silent because you're afraid to speak, people sense it. But if you're silent because you don't need to, people feel it. Intent matters. Calm is not emptiness, it's contained power. The world is loud. Everyone is shouting opinions, justifications, explanations. Silence cuts through that noise. It forces attention. It slows time. It changes dynamics. This is why silence has always been associated with authority. Judges pause before ruling. Commanders give brief orders. Experienced men speak last. Not out of arrogance, out of control. They don't rush to prove anything. They know that the one who controls himself controls the situation. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. Silence is uncomfortable at first. Your instincts will fight it. Your ego will want to explain. Your emotions will want release. That discomfort is the price of power. Most people never pay it. They choose relief over control. You don't need to win every exchange. You need to remain unshaken. Silence keeps you unshaken. And when others realize they can't move you emotionally, they panic because control over you is gone. That's why silence works. Not because it manipulates, but because it removes leverage. No reaction means no handle to grab. No explanation means no weakness to exploit. Silence closes doors quietly, but it opens awareness. You start seeing patterns. Who respects you? Who tests you? Who fears losing influence? That knowledge is priceless and dangerous, because once you understand this, you can't unsee it. You'll notice how often people talk themselves into weakness, how often they give away authority by oversharing. You'll realize how rare true calm is, and how powerful. But understand this clearly. Silence is not kindness. Silence is not cruelty. Silence is neutrality with teeth. Used correctly, it protects you. Used carelessly, it isolates you. This is not about disappearing. It's about choosing presence over noise. Speak when it matters. Stay silent when it doesn't. Let others rush. Let others panic. You remain still. Because the one who stays calm while others lose control is the one everyone watches, and the one everyone fears misjudging. Remember this. People don't panic when you go quiet because they lose you. They panic because they lose control over you. And once that control is gone, they can never get it back the same way. Use that knowledge carefully, because silence gives power, and power reveals who you really are.